Sarah packed the last box and taped it shut, glancing around the empty apartment that had been her home for the past 8 years. The bare walls echoed every sound now, making the space feel foreign and cold. 3 months after losing her job at the accounting firm where she'd worked since college, Sarah had finally accepted she couldn't afford to stay in the city anymore. "Mom, did you see my blue backpack?" 12-year-old Emma appeared in the doorway, her dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail. "Check behind the bathroom door," Sarah replied, marking the box with a black Sharpie. "And make sure you've got everything from your room." The decision to move back to her hometown wasn't easy. At 34, returning to Lakeside felt like admitting defeat. But when her old high school friend Jen mentioned the vacant office manager position at the local medical clinic, Sarah knew it was their best chance at stability. The last of their belongings fit into Sarah's aging Honda, with just enough room for Emma in the back seat, surrounded by bags of clothes and her most treasured possessions. As they pulled away from the apartment building, Sarah caught Emma staring out the window, eyes glossy with unshed tears. "I know this isn't what we planned," Sarah said, reaching back to squeeze her daughter's knee. "But we're going to be okay." Emma nodded but didn't look convinced. She had left behind her friends, her school, and the only home she remembered. Sarah felt the familiar weight of guilt pressing against her chest. Single parenting had never been part of her plan, but when Emma's father decided family life wasn't for him 6 years ago, Sarah had stepped up. Now she was uprooting them both. The 4-hour drive to Lakeside was mostly silent. Emma eventually fell asleep, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts. The highway stretched ahead, carrying them toward uncertainty. Jen was waiting on the porch when they pulled into the driveway of the small rental house. Her familiar smile and immediate hug made Sarah's shoulders relax for the first time in weeks. "The place is all set up. I got the heat turned on yesterday," Jen said, helping them carry bags inside. "And I put some groceries in the fridge so you wouldn't have to worry about shopping tonight." The house was modest: 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a combined living and dining area, and a kitchen with dated appliances. But it was clean, affordable, and theirs. Emma disappeared into the smaller bedroom while Sarah and Jen unloaded the car. "The clinic is excited to meet you on Monday," Jen said, placing a box labeled "Kitchen" on the counter. "Dr. Miller nearly hugged me when I told him you had accounting experience." The last office manager left everything in chaos. Sarah managed to smile. "I'm grateful for the opportunity. I just hope—" She glanced toward Emma's room, lowering her voice. "I just hope she adjusts okay. This has been hard on her." "Kids are resilient," Jen assured her. "And Lakeside Middle School is great. My nephew goes there and loves it." After Jen left, Sarah found Emma sitting cross-legged on her bare mattress, staring at her phone. "I set up the internet," Sarah said, leaning against the doorframe. Jen left the password on the fridge. Emma nodded without looking up. "Want to order pizza for dinner? First meal in our new place should be special." "Whatever," Emma mumbled. Sarah sat beside her daughter, the mattress dipping under their combined weight. "I know you're angry. You have every right to be." Emma finally looked up, her eyes a mirror of Sarah's own. "I had to leave the debate team. We were going to regionals." "I know. And Zoe's birthday party is next weekend." "I know that too." Emma's lower lip trembled. "So why did we have to move? Why couldn't we stay until the end of the school year at least?" Sarah took a deep breath. She had always been honest with Emma, even when the truth was uncomfortable. "Because I couldn't afford it anymore. The severance package ran out, and the new job I found in the city didn't pay enough for our apartment. But all my friends are there. You'll make new friends here." "I don't want new friends." Emma's voice cracked. "I want my old life back." Sarah pulled her daughter into a hug, feeling Emma's resistance before she finally melted into the embrace. "Me too, sweetheart. But sometimes life doesn't give us what we want. It gives us what we need to grow stronger." That night, after Emma had fallen asleep in her new room, Sarah sat on the front porch steps with a cup of tea. The street was quiet, so different from their city apartment where traffic noise had been a constant backdrop. Stars pierced the darkness above, another sight that had been rare in their old life. As the cool night air settled around her, Sarah felt something unexpected: relief. The constant pressure of impending financial disaster had lifted. They had a roof over their heads, a steady job waiting, and enough money to get by. It wasn't the life she had imagined for them, but it was a fresh start. Tomorrow, they would unpack. They would hang pictures on walls and arrange furniture until this house began to feel like theirs. Sarah would help Emma set up her room exactly how she wanted it. They would explore the town, maybe drive by the clinic and the school. It wouldn't be easy. New beginnings never were. But as Sarah finished her tea and looked up at the vast night sky, she allowed herself to hope that this unexpected detour might eventually lead them somewhere better than where they had been heading before. Sarah's first day at Lakeside Medical Clinic was overwhelming. The filing system was non-existent, insurance claims were backlogged for months, and the receptionist quit during lunch. By 5 o'clock, Sarah's head throbbed as she hurried to pick up Emma from her first day at the new school. "How was it?" Sarah asked, trying to sound upbeat as Emma slid into the passenger seat. Emma shrugged, buckling her seatbelt. "Fine. Just fine. Did you meet anyone nice?" "The math teacher seems okay. And there's this girl Abby who showed me around." Emma stared out the window. The cafeteria food is worse than at Kennedy, though. Sarah counted this as a win. Actual details instead of one-word answers. "I'll pack your lunch tomorrow. We need groceries anyway." At the local supermarket, Sarah pushed a cart down unfamiliar aisles while Emma trailed behind, listing the lunch items she wanted. They rounded a corner and nearly collided with another cart. "Sorry," Sarah exclaimed, then recognized the man pushing it. "Oh, Dr. Miller." The doctor's kind eyes crinkled as he smiled. "Sarah, how was your first day in the chaos that is our office?" "Challenging," Sarah admitted. "But I think I can get things organized. With a little time. I have complete faith in you." He turned to Emma. "And you must be the daughter I've heard about. First day at Lakeside Middle." Emma nodded, suddenly shy. "My son Ben is in 8th grade there. Maybe you'll meet him." Sarah noticed Emma perk up slightly at the mention of a potential connection. After they parted ways with Dr. Miller, Emma asked, "Do you like your new job?" "It's a mess," Sarah said honestly. "But I think I can fix it. How about I make spaghetti tonight while you tell me more about your day?" Over dinner, Emma gradually opened up about her classes and the few kids who had spoken to her. It wasn't enthusiasm, but it was communication, a start. The next few weeks fell into a pattern. Sarah arrived at the clinic early each morning, tackling the chaos bit by bit. She created new filing systems, trained the new receptionist, and spent hours on the phone with insurance companies. Each small victory felt significant, evidence that she could rebuild what had been lost. Emma's adjustment was slower. She went to school without complaint but spent evenings in her room, texting friends from the city or watching videos on her tablet. Sarah worried but gave her space, remembering how hard it had been when she was 13 and her parents divorced, forcing a similar move. One evening in late April, about a month after their move, Sarah was sorting through bills at the kitchen table when Emma appeared in the doorway. "There's a debate club meeting tomorrow after school," she said. "The teacher said I could still join even though it's late in the year." Sarah looked up. "That sounds great. Do you want to go?" Emma nodded. "Yeah, maybe. I can pick you up afterward. Just text me when you're done." The next day, Sarah left work early to ensure she wouldn't be late. She sat in the school parking lot, nervous for her daughter and hopeful that this might be a turning point. When Emma finally emerged from the building, she wasn't alone. A tall boy with sandy hair walked beside her, both of them laughing about something. "That's Ben," Emma explained as she got into the car. "Dr. Miller's son. He's in debate club too." "How was it?" Sarah asked, trying not to sound too eager. "Good," Emma said, and for the first time since the move, her smile reached her eyes. "They're working on the last competition of the year. The teacher said I could help even though I'm new." That night at dinner, Emma talked more than she had in weeks, explaining the debate format and how she might be able to participate as a researcher, if not a speaker. Sarah listened, relief washing over her. It wasn't the debate team Emma had left behind, but it was something. Spring eased into early summer. Sarah's systems at the clinic were taking hold, and Dr. Miller had twice complimented her work in front of the entire staff. The second bedroom in their rental house no longer felt temporary. Emma had hung posters on the walls and arranged her books on the small bookshelf Sarah had found at a yard sale. Sarah, too, was settling in. She and Jen had fallen back into their old friendship as if the years apart had been weeks. They met for coffee on Saturday mornings while Emma attended debate practice, which had extended beyond the school year for students participating in a summer competition. "You seem better," Jen commented one Saturday as they sat outside the local cafe. "Less stressed." Sarah considered this. "I am. The pay isn't what I made in the city, but it's enough. And honestly, I didn't realize how unhappy I was there until we left. Sometimes we get so caught up in surviving that we forget to check if we're actually living, Jen said. The observation stuck with Sarah. In the city, every day had been a race. Dropping Emma at school, commuting to work, bringing work home, falling into bed exhausted only to repeat it all the next day. Here, the pace was different. They ate dinner together every night. They had started walking around the neighborhood in the evenings, getting to know the streets and the neighbors. Last weekend, they had even gone to the community pool where Emma had run into several kids from school. One Tuesday evening in June, Sarah was deadheading the roses in their small front yard when Dr. Miller's car pulled up in front of their house. Ben got out first, followed by Emma, both carrying backpacks. "Thanks for the ride, Dr. Miller," Sarah called, waving. To her surprise, he got out of the car too. "Please, call me Jack. We're not at the office." He walked up the front path. "The kids were working on debate research at our house, and I thought I'd drop Emma off." "That was kind of you." Sarah suddenly felt self-conscious in her gardening clothes. Dirt smudged on her knees. "Actually, I wanted to ask you something," Jack said. "The clinic staff always has a 4th of July barbecue at my place. Nothing fancy, just food and maybe some fireworks if the weather's good. I was hoping you and Emma might join us." "Oh," Sarah said, caught off guard. "Yes, that sounds nice." After he left, Emma appeared beside her, a knowing smile on her face. "He likes you." "He's my boss," Sarah corrected, returning to the roses. "Uh-huh." Emma's tone was skeptical. "He asks about you a lot when I'm at their house. Like, what foods you like and if you're happy here." Sarah felt her cheeks warm. "He's just being friendly." But that night, as she got ready for bed, Sarah found herself smiling at the thought of the barbecue. It had been so long since she'd thought of herself as anything other than Emma's mom or an office manager or ex-wife. The idea that someone might see her as just Sarah, a woman with her own identity, was both terrifying and exhilarating. She looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. The dark circles that had been permanent fixtures under her eyes in the city had faded. Her shoulders no longer hunched with constant tension. This place that had initially felt like a retreat, a place to hide and lick her wounds, was slowly becoming something else, a home where new roots could grow. The 4th of July barbecue at Jack Miller's house was larger than Sarah had expected. Cars lined the long driveway leading to the colonial-style home on the edge of town, and the backyard buzzed with conversation and laughter. Emma immediately spotted Ben and a few other kids from debate club and disappeared into the crowd, leaving Sarah clutching a bowl of potato salad and feeling oddly vulnerable. "You made it." Jack appeared beside her, taking the bowl. "I was starting to worry you'd changed your mind. Sorry we're late." "I changed my outfit 3 times like a teenager," Sarah admitted, then felt her face flush at the confession. Jack grinned. "Well, the final choice was worth the wait." He introduced her to the other clinic staff and their families, most of whom greeted her warmly. Sarah recognized many of the patients she'd helped over the past few months. Lakeside was small enough that she'd already encountered a significant portion of the population through the clinic. "Your billing system saved my sanity," the clinic's nurse practitioner told her. "The insurance nightmare with my husband's knee surgery almost broke me before you stepped in." "Just doing my job," Sarah replied, though the praise warmed her. As the evening progressed, Sarah found herself relaxing. She helped Jack's sister arrange food on the tables and laughed at the pediatric nurse's stories about children's creative excuses to avoid shots. When Jack brought her a plate of food and sat beside her on the porch steps, the conversation flowed easily. "Emma seems to be settling in," he observed, nodding toward the yard where Emma was playing volleyball with Ben and several other teens. "Debate club was the turning point," Sarah said. "I owe you for that. Ben made all the difference." Jack shook his head. "Ben said she's the best researcher they've had. The team needed her." He took a sip of his beer. "How about you? Are you settling in too?" Sarah considered the question. "I think I am. It's different from what I expected. Different good or different bad?" "Good," she decided. "I came here feeling like I'd failed somehow. Like this was a step backward. But now it feels more like a redirect to somewhere I needed to be." Jack nodded thoughtfully. "I get that. When Emily, my wife, died 5 years ago, I thought about leaving Lakeside, starting fresh somewhere else. But then I realized running away wouldn't fix anything." Sarah hadn't known about his wife. Ben had mentioned his mom was gone once, but Emma hadn't elaborated. I'm sorry. That must have been incredibly hard. It was. Still is sometimes. Jack looked toward Ben. But we figured it out. Day by day. As darkness fell, the younger children played with sparklers while the teenagers grouped around a fire pit. Sarah and Jack found themselves on the back deck, slightly removed from the main gathering. I should help clean up, Sarah said, noticing the empty plates and cups scattered around. It can wait, Jack replied. The fireworks are about to start. The first boom echoed across the sky, followed by a burst of red and gold. More followed, lighting up the faces of everyone in the yard. Sarah glanced at Emma, who was sitting beside Ben, both looking upward with expressions of wonder. In that moment, Sarah felt a surge of gratitude for this place that had begun to heal both of them. I have a confession, Jack said quietly, his voice almost lost beneath another explosion of fireworks. I was hoping to talk to you tonight about something not related to the clinic. Sarah turned to him, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. Oh, there's a summer concert series in the park on Friday nights. I was wondering if you might want to go. With me. He looked uncharacteristically nervous. Just us. The invitation hung between them, weighted with possibility. Sarah hadn't dated since before Emma was born. The idea was terrifying and tempting. I need to find someone to stay with Emma, she said, which wasn't a no. Jack smiled. Ben's aunt, my sister, has been trying to convince me to get out there for 2 years. She'd be thrilled to have both kids at her place for an evening. Then yes, Sarah said, surprising herself with how easily the word came. I'd like that. The fireworks continued overhead, but Sarah found herself watching Jack instead, noticing the way the colored lights played across his face. Something new was beginning. Something she hadn't been looking for, but now couldn't imagine refusing. Their first date was simple. Lawn chairs in the park, a local band playing covers of songs they both remembered from college, and surprisingly good food from the trucks parked along the perimeter. Jack brought a blanket when the evening cooled, and they talked about everything except work, favorite books, worst movies, places they'd traveled. I haven't laughed this much in ages, Sarah admitted as they walked back to his car. Me neither, Jack said. We should do it again. And they did. Movies at the small theater downtown. Coffee on Saturday mornings. A hike at the state park where Emma and Ben raced ahead on the trail, giving them rare moments alone. Emma watched these developments with obvious approval. He makes you smile more, she told Sarah one night as they washed dishes. It's nice. By August, Sarah realized Lakeside no longer felt temporary. The clinic ran smoothly under her management. She and Emma had planted flowers in the yard of their rental house. They knew the checkout clerks at the grocery store by name. And Jack had become a central part of their lives, a development Sarah had never anticipated when she'd reluctantly packed their belongings just 4 months earlier. One evening, as summer began its slow transition to fall, Sarah sat on her front porch waiting for Jack to pick her up for dinner. Emma was already at Ben's house, the two of them working on a science project despite having 2 weeks before school started. You look lost in thought, Jack said as he walked up the path. Sarah smiled. Just thinking about how different everything is from what I expected when we moved here. Different good or different bad? He asked, echoing their conversation from the 4th of July. Definitely good. She stood, meeting him halfway. I came here thinking it was just a place to regroup until I could get us back to the city. But now, Jack prompted. Now I'm wondering if we were meant to end up here all along. She hesitated, then added, if I was meant to meet you. Jack took her hand. I've been wondering the same thing. Later that night, after dinner at the nicest restaurant in town, they walked along the small lake that gave the town its name. The water reflected the lights from nearby houses, and a few boats still dotted the surface despite the late hour. I have something to ask you, Jack said, stopping at a bench overlooking the water. It's about the future. Sarah felt her heart rate quicken. Okay, my lease on the clinic building is up in October. I've been thinking about buying instead of renewing. He looked at her, but I wanted to know your thoughts first. If you're planning to stay in Lakeside long-term, are you asking as my boss or as whatever we are now? Sarah asked. Jack smiled. Both, I guess. The clinic needs you. And he paused. I need you too. Or at least, I want you in my life. But I understand if you're still seeing this as temporary. Sarah thought about the past few months. How a place she'd come to reluctantly had slowly become home. How Emma had gone from miserable to thriving. how she herself had rediscovered parts of herself she thought were lost forever. "We're staying," she said with certainty. "Emma loves the school, and I love the clinic. And," she took a deep breath, "and I think I might be falling in love with you." The words hung in the air between them, honest and vulnerable. Jack's face softened, and he reached for her hand. "I'm already there," he said quietly. "I've been falling for you since you reorganized the entire filing system and didn't once complain about the mess I'd let it become." Sarah laughed, relief and joy mingling. "That's not exactly a romantic moment to pinpoint. It was for me. I saw someone who could take chaos and make sense of it, who didn't give up when things got hard." He squeezed her hand. "Who knows? Maybe that's exactly what I needed." As they walked back to the car, Sarah thought about the unexpected turns life could take. For months ago, she'd been drowning in a city that no longer felt like home. Now she was building something new, something real and sustainable. It wasn't the life she'd planned, but as she leaned into Jack's side, his arm around her shoulders, she couldn't imagine wanting anything else. As summer faded into fall, Sarah and Jack's relationship deepened. They established a comfortable routine: family dinners twice a week, movie nights with the kids, and occasional dates just for themselves. Emma and Ben had become nearly inseparable, united by debate club and a shared love of science fiction that had them constantly trading books and arguing about plot holes. The first hint of trouble came on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday in October. Sarah was reviewing insurance claims at the clinic when Jack's ex-sister-in-law, Caroline, walked in without an appointment. Her expression was tight, her designer handbag clutched like a shield. "Is Jack available?" she asked, bypassing the usual pleasantries. Sarah checked the schedule. "He's with a patient. Can I help you with something?" Caroline studied her with undisguised scrutiny. "You must be Sarah? Ben's mentioned you." "That's right. And you're Caroline, Jack's sister-in-law." Sarah kept her tone professional despite the uncomfortable tension. "Former sister-in-law," Caroline corrected. "Though I'll always be Ben's aunt. Family is forever, after all." There was something pointed in her words that made Sarah uneasy. Before she could respond, Jack emerged from an exam room, surprise registering on his face when he spotted Caroline. "Care, what are you doing here? Is everything okay? Just in town for the day? Thought I'd stop by." She kissed his cheek with practiced familiarity. "We need to talk about Thanksgiving arrangements for Ben." Jack glanced at Sarah, something apologetic in his expression. "Let's use my office." After they disappeared behind Jack's door, Sarah tried to focus on her work, but Caroline's appearance had unsettled her. She'd known Jack had remained close to his late wife's family, especially for Ben's sake. But this was her first encounter with that part of his life. That evening, Jack called instead of coming over as planned. "Everything okay?" Sarah asked, hearing the strain in his voice. "Just a long day. Caroline wants Ben for the entire Thanksgiving weekend, which means driving him 3 hours to Emily's parents' place." "And you don't want him to go?" Jack sighed. "It's not that. I want him to see his grandparents. It's just," Caroline made some comments about how the holidays are for real family, and with everything changing in our lives. The implication hung in the air. "She doesn't approve of us," Sarah concluded. "She's protective of Emily's memory," Jack said, which wasn't quite a denial. "It'll get better with time." But in the following weeks, Caroline's influence became a persistent undercurrent. She called Jack frequently about Ben's schedule. She sent Emily's parents to Ben's debate tournament, where they were polite but reserved towards Sarah and Emma. She scheduled a last-minute weekend visit that meant canceling plans Sarah had made for all 4 of them. "It's like she's marking her territory," Sarah confided to Jen over coffee, reminding everyone that she was there first. "Are you worried about Jack's feelings?" Jen asked. "Do you think he's still in love with Emily?" Sarah considered this. "No. I know he loved her, and part of him always will. That's not what bothers me. It's more that Caroline seems determined to keep us separate, his life with Ben and their family in one box, and whatever we're building in another." The situation came to a head the week before Thanksgiving. Sarah was helping Emma with math homework when Jack arrived, his expression troubled. "Can we talk?" he asked once Emma had retreated to her room. Sarah's stomach tightened. "That sounds serious." Caroline called. "Emily's parents want to meet you before Thanksgiving." He ran a hand through his hair. "They're coming to town this weekend." "Why now all of a sudden?" "Apparently Ben's been talking about you. About us potentially becoming a family." Jack sat beside her on the couch. They're concerned about him getting hurt if things don't work out between us. The word stung. Do they think I'm some kind of temporary distraction for you? No, they're just protective of Ben. He's their only connection to Emily. Jack took her hand. I told them we'd have dinner with them Saturday. But if you're not comfortable with that, I understand. Sarah wanted to refuse. The idea of being evaluated by Emily's parents made her feel like an intruder. But she thought of Ben, the way he and Emma had bonded, how he'd slowly opened up to her over the past months. She thought of Jack, caught between his past and his present. I'll go, she said finally. But I'm not pretending to be someone I'm not to make them comfortable. Saturday evening found them at Lakeside's nicest restaurant, seated across from Robert and Diane Wheeler. They were a handsome couple in their 60s, with the same sandy hair Ben had inherited. The conversation was strained at first, with Robert asking pointed questions about Sarah's background and Diane barely touching her food. Ben says Emma's quite the debater, Robert said eventually. Emily was like that, always had to have the last word. It drove us crazy when she was a teenager, Diane added, her expression softening at the memory. But it made her a wonderful lawyer. Sarah hadn't known Emily was an attorney. Jack rarely spoke about his late wife, something Sarah had attributed to lingering grief. Now she wondered if he'd been trying to keep those worlds separate too. Emma gets her stubbornness from me, Sarah said. Her dad was more of a peacekeeper, which probably saved us from arguing ourselves hoarse when she was little. Emma's father, is he still involved in her life? Diane asked. Mom, Jack warned quietly. It's okay, Sarah said. No, he isn't. He left when Emma was 6 and moved across the country. He calls on her birthday, but that's about it. Diane's expression changed, something like understanding crossing her features. That must have been difficult for both of you. It was, but we managed. Sarah met Diane's eyes. Emma's the most important person in my life. I would never do anything to hurt her, or Ben. The tension at the table eased slightly. As dinner progressed, Robert shared stories about Emily as a child, and Diane asked about Emma's interests beyond debate. By dessert, the conversation had become almost comfortable. Walking to their cars afterward, Jack took Sarah's hand. Thank you for doing that. I know it wasn't easy. They love Ben, Sarah said. I can respect that, even if it's uncomfortable. They liked you, Jack assured her. Mom wouldn't have shown you those embarrassing pictures of Emily at band camp if she didn't. Sarah smiled, but something still nagged at her. Later that night, after Jack had gone home, she found herself staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Meeting Emily's parents had made her late wife feel suddenly real in a way she hadn't before. Not just a memory Jack carried, but a woman with parents who missed her, with stories and accomplishments and a life that had been cut short. And it raised questions Sarah had been avoiding. Where did she fit in that story? Was there room for her in Jack's life without diminishing Emily's memory? And if they moved forward, would she always feel like she was living in another woman's shadow? The next morning, Emma found her at the kitchen table, still in her pajamas, hands wrapped around a cold cup of coffee. You okay, Mom? She asked, grabbing a bowl for cereal. Sarah managed to smile. Just thinking. Emma poured Cheerios and milk, then sat across from her. About Dr. Miller? About a lot of things. Sarah hesitated, then asked, Are you happy here, Em? Really happy, not just making the best of it. Emma considered this with surprising seriousness. I miss some things about the city, but I like my school here better. And Ben's cool. She stirred her cereal. And you seem happier. Except right now. I am happier, Sarah admitted. But relationships are complicated, especially when there's history involved. Because of Ben's mom. Sarah nodded, surprised by her daughter's perception. Ben talks about her sometimes, Emma said. He says he doesn't remember her that well anymore, which makes him feel bad. But he likes having you around. He told me it's nice seeing his dad happy again. The simple insight from her 12-year-old daughter brought tears to Sarah's eyes. In all her worrying about the past, she'd almost missed what was right in front of her. Two broken families slowly healing together, creating something new that honored what came before without being limited by it. Thanksgiving morning dawned cold and clear. Sarah woke early, the house quiet around her. Emma was still asleep, exhausted from helping prepare side dishes the night before. They had decided to have their own small Thanksgiving since Ben would be with his grandparents and Jack had been called for an emergency at the clinic the previous evening. Sarah made coffee and sat by the window, watching the neighborhood come to life. A few houses down, Someone was already putting up Christmas decorations. The normalcy of it was comforting. Life continuing its steady rhythms despite the uncertainties in her own heart. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jack. Just finished at the clinic. Patient stable. Can we talk later? Sarah replied with a simple yes and tried not to read too much into the message. Since their dinner with Emily's parents, something had shifted between them. Nothing dramatic, just a slight hesitation in conversations, a carefulness that hadn't been there before. Jack had been working extra hours, and Sarah had thrown herself into preparing for Thanksgiving, both of them creating space neither had asked for. Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway, hair tousled from sleep. "Happy Thanksgiving," she mumbled, heading straight for the refrigerator and the orange juice. "Happy Thanksgiving, sleepyhead." Sarah smiled at her daughter. "Ready for our feast later?" Emma nodded, then checked her phone. Ben says they're leaving for his grandparents soon. He's not excited. 3 hours in the car with his aunt doesn't sound like a teenager's idea of fun, Sarah agreed. "It's not just that." Emma hesitated. "He says his aunt keeps saying weird stuff about you and his dad." Sarah kept her expression neutral despite the twist in her stomach. "What kind of stuff?" "Like how his mom would feel about his dad dating so soon." Ben told her it's been 5 years, but she said some people never get over losing someone they truly love. Emma looked up. "That's not true, is it?" About Dr. Miller still being in love with Ben's mom. The directness of the question caught Sarah off guard. "I think people can always love someone they've lost while also finding room to love someone new," she said carefully. "It's not about replacing anyone." Emma seemed to consider this. "Like how I still miss Dad sometimes, even though he left us. Not that it's the same as dying," she added quickly. "Loss is loss," Sarah said. "And it's okay to miss your dad, even when you're angry at him." They spent the morning finishing preparations for their meal. Sarah tried to focus on the simple pleasure of cooking with her daughter, but her thoughts kept returning to Jack and the conversation they needed to have. By early afternoon, the small turkey was in the oven, potatoes were boiling on the stove, and Emma was arranging a cheese plate for snacking. The doorbell rang unexpectedly. Sarah wiped her hands on a dish towel and went to answer it, surprised to find Jack standing on her porch. "I thought you were resting after your night shift," she said, stepping back to let him in. "I was going to." He looked tired but determined. "But then I realized I didn't want to spend Thanksgiving alone in my empty house thinking about all the things I should have said to you days ago." Sarah felt her heart rate quicken. "What about Ben? I thought Caroline picked him up this morning." "She did. He's with my in-laws until Sunday." Jack followed her into the kitchen where Emma was pretending not to eavesdrop. "Hey, Emma, is it okay if I crash your Thanksgiving?" "Sure." Emma grinned. "We have tons of food. Mom always cooks like she's feeding an army." Sarah shot her daughter a look. "Why? Don't you go set an extra place at the table?" Once Emma had left, Sarah turned to Jack. "What's going on? You've been distant all week." Jack sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I know. I'm sorry. After dinner with Emily's parents, I got stuck in my head. Started wondering if I was pushing too fast, if it was fair to you, to Ben." "Fair to me how?" "Emily will always be part of our lives, part of Ben's life. Her family will always be his family." Jack met her eyes. "I worried you might feel like you'd always be competing with a ghost." The echo of her own thoughts surprised her. "I've had the same fears," she admitted. "After meeting her parents, Emily became real to me in a way she hadn't before. I started wondering if there was really room for me in your life." Jack moved closer, taking her hands. "There is. That's what I realized last night at the clinic. I was helping this elderly man who'd fallen at his nursing home. Nothing serious, just some stitches. He kept talking about his late wife, showing me pictures he keeps in his wallet. 62 years they were married." "That's amazing," Sarah said, not sure where Jack was going with the story. "It is. But then he showed me another picture, him with a woman about his age at some dance. My girlfriend, Marge," he said. "Met her in the home last year. Helen would have liked her." Jack squeezed Sarah's hands. This 87-year-old man understood something I've been overthinking for days. Loving someone new doesn't diminish loving someone you've lost. Sarah felt tears prick at her eyes. "That's almost exactly what I told Emma this morning." "Great minds," Jack said with a small smile. "I don't want to spend another holiday trying to keep parts of my life separate. I want Ben to know it's okay to love his mom's memory and still be happy about what's happening now. I want my in-laws to see that I'm building something new that honors Emily by being a good father to our son." "And what about Caroline?" Sarah asked, naming the elephant in the room. Jack's expression hardened slightly. I had a long talk with her before she picked up Ben. I told her that while I appreciate everything she's done for us, she needs to respect my choices. Ben's well-being includes seeing his father happy and building healthy relationships. How did she take it? Not great, initially, but I think she'll come around. Jack pulled Sarah closer. I told her we're serious, that I'm in love with you, and you and Emma are becoming part of our family. The declaration hung in the air between them. They'd said the words before, but this felt different, more deliberate, a decision rather than a feeling. Are we? Sarah asked quietly. Part of your family? I hope so, Jack said, because Ben and I are pretty attached to both of you. Emma appeared in the doorway, a knowing smile on her face. Turkey's done. I already took it out of the oven. When did you learn to cook a turkey? Sarah asked, surprised. YouTube, Emma shrugged. Plus Ben texted me instructions. He said his dad always overcooks the bird. Jack laughed. He's not wrong. They gathered around the small dining table. An unlikely family formed from separate losses. The conversation flowed easily as they filled their plates. Jack shared stories about his own childhood Thanksgivings, and Sarah talked about the year she'd attempted to deep fry a turkey and nearly burned down her apartment. Emma relaxed in a way Sarah hadn't seen in months, the wariness that had clung to her since their move finally gone. After dinner, as Emma FaceTimed with her friends from the city, Sarah and Jack cleaned up the kitchen together. I have something to ask you, Jack said, drying a serving dish. It's a big question, so feel free to take time thinking about it. Sarah put down the pot she was scrubbing. That sounds serious. It is. My lease is up on this house next month, Jack said. And it's getting ridiculous, this back and forth between two houses when we spend most of our time together anyway. Sarah's heart skipped. Are you asking what I think you're asking? I'm asking if you and Emma would consider moving in with us, Jack said. My house is bigger. Ben already has his room set up, and there's a great space that could be Emma's. He hesitated. It's a lot, I know. And maybe it's too soon. It's not too soon, Sarah interrupted. It's been almost 8 months. That's not rushing things. So is that a yes? Sarah thought about the journey that had brought them here, the painful move from the city, the struggle to rebuild, the unexpected connection that had changed everything. She thought about Emma's growing happiness, about Ben's acceptance of them, about the comfort she felt in Jack's presence. It's a yes, she said, but I want to talk to Emma first. This affects her life as much as mine. Of course, Jack agreed. Family decisions should include everyone. The word family settled warmly between them. It wasn't what Sarah had imagined when she'd reluctantly packed their belongings last spring. It was better, messier, more complicated, but ultimately more real than the safe, predictable future she'd been planning. Later, after Jack had gone home to sleep off his night shift, Sarah found Emma in her room, arranging photos on a corkboard. Can we talk for a minute? Sarah asked, sitting on the edge of the bed. Emma nodded, pinning up a picture of herself with Ben at a debate tournament. Is this about moving in with Dr. Miller and Ben? Sarah blinked in surprise. How did you know? Ben's been talking about it for weeks, Emma said matter-of-factly. He's already cleaning out the guest room closet to make space for my stuff. And how do you feel about it? Sarah asked, studying her daughter's face. This is a big change. I won't do it if you're not completely comfortable. Emma sat beside her mother. I like being here. It feels like home now. She touched one of the photos, the 4 of them at the lake last month. But they feel like home too. So it doesn't really matter which house we live in, does it? The simple wisdom of her daughter's words brought tears to Sarah's eyes. When did you get so smart? Emma shrugged, embarrassed by her mother's emotion. Does this mean we're like officially a family now? We're building one, Sarah said carefully. It might not look exactly like other families, but it's ours. Emma nodded, seemingly satisfied with this answer. Cool. As long as I get my own bathroom. Ben uses like 3 different hair products. Sarah laughed, pulling her daughter into a hug. The path forward wasn't perfectly clear, and there would be challenges ahead. Caroline might never fully accept her. Emily's memory would always be part of their lives. But for the first time, since leaving the city, Sarah felt completely certain they were exactly where they needed to be. The weeks following Thanksgiving passed in a blur of boxes, packing tape, and decisions about what to keep and what to donate. Emma approached the move with surprising enthusiasm, sorting through her belongings with newfound maturity and minimal nostalgia. Sarah found herself more sentimental, lingering over items that marked their journey. The mismatched dishes they'd bought at a thrift store their first week in Lakeside. The throw pillows that had made the rental house feel like theirs. "You don't have to get rid of everything, you know," Jack said, finding her sitting on the floor surrounded by kitchen items. "My house isn't fully furnished by any means." "I know," Sarah said. "I'm just thinking about how much has changed since we packed these same dishes in the city. I was so angry then. At life, at Emma's father, at myself for failing." Jack sat beside her. "And now I'm grateful," she said simply. "For all of it, even the hard parts. They let us here." Moving day arrived on a crisp December Saturday. Ben and Emma supervised the loading of boxes with the seriousness of military commanders, while Jack and Sarah tried to maintain some semblance of organization. By evening, they were surrounded by boxes in their now shared home, too exhausted to unpack, but too wired to sleep. "Pizza," Jack suggested, and the kids cheered their approval. As they ate dinner picnic style on the living room floor, Sarah looked around at the chaos of their combined belongings and felt an unexpected sense of rightness. This messy, imperfect blending was exactly what they all needed. The adjustment wasn't without challenges. Emma and Ben bickered over bathroom schedules and whose turn it was to load the dishwasher. Jack discovered Sarah's habit of leaving half-empty coffee cups around the house. Sarah learned that Jack became irritable when work stress built up and needed space to decompress. But they worked through each issue with open communication, usually around the dinner table where they'd established a rule of honesty without judgment. Christmas approached, bringing new complexities. Emily's parents invited Ben to spend Christmas Eve with them, a tradition they'd maintained since their daughter's death. Sarah worried about the separation, but Jack was firm. "It's important for Ben," he said, "and it's just one night. We'll have our Christmas on Christmas Day." To Sarah's surprise, Diane called her directly the week before Christmas. "We were hoping you and Emma might join us for Christmas Eve dinner before Ben stays over," she said. "We'd like to get to know you both better." The invitation was unexpected but welcome. On Christmas Eve, they drove to the Wheelers' home in a nearby town. A beautiful colonial with a perfectly decorated tree visible through the front window. Sarah felt Emma tense beside her as they approached the front door. "What if they don't like me?" Emma whispered. "They'll love you," Sarah assured her. "Just be yourself." Dinner was initially awkward but gradually warmed. Robert asked Emma about debate club, his genuine interest drawing her out of her shell. Diane showed Sarah family photo albums, including pictures of Emily as a teenager that could have been Ben. There was a wistfulness to the evening, but not the suffocating grief Sarah had feared. After dinner, as the men cleared the table, Diane led Sarah to a small study filled with books and family photographs. "I wanted to show you something," she said, picking up a framed letter from the desk. "Emily wrote this when Ben was born. A letter to whoever might love her son and husband if something happened to her." Sarah hesitated. "Are you sure you want me to read it?" Diane nodded. She was always practical, our Emily. Even in her happiest moments, she planned for every contingency. The letter was simple but powerful, a mother's hope that her child would be loved, that her husband would find happiness again, that whoever joined their lives would understand the gifts they were receiving. Sarah read it through tears, touched by the generosity of a woman she would never meet. "Thank you for sharing this," she said, carefully returning the letter to Diane. "Jack chose well," Diane said quietly. "Emily would have approved of you." It was the most meaningful gift Sarah could have received, acceptance from the keeper of Emily's memory. When they left that night, leaving Ben for his traditional sleepover, the goodbye hugs were genuine. As they drove home, Sarah held Jack's hand across the console, feeling another piece of their complex puzzle fall into place. Christmas morning brought its own magic. They woke early, made pancakes shaped like snowmen, and gathered around the tree in pajamas. The gifts were modest but thoughtful, books chosen with care, handmade items, experiences to share rather than things to own. Emma gave Ben a rare comic book she tracked down through Jen's nephew. Ben gave Emma a custom debate timer he'd built in science club. Jack gave Sarah a weekend getaway for just the two of them. Sarah gave Jack a vintage doctor's bag she'd found at an antique store, filled with handwritten notes from patients thanking him for his care. In January, as life settled into its new rhythm, an unexpected email arrived from the city. Sarah's former employer was offering her old position back at a significantly higher salary. 5 months ago, the offer would have seemed like salvation. Now, Sarah stared at the screen, feeling nothing but certainty in her decision to decline. "You could consider it," Jack said when she showed him the email. "I know the money would be good." "Money isn't everything," Sarah replied. "We have enough. And we have something here that I couldn't find there, no matter how much they paid me." She composed a polite refusal, recommending a former colleague for the position instead. As she hit send, she felt the last tie to her old life release. Winter melted into spring. The clinic thrived under Sarah's management, and Jack's patient roster grew as word spread about his compassionate care. Emma and Ben advanced to the state debate finals, their team placing second overall. Life found its comfortable cadence. Work and school, family dinners and weekend outings, quiet evenings when the kids were busy with friends, and Jack and Sarah had the house to themselves. In April, almost exactly a year after Sarah and Emma had arrived in Lakeside, Caroline arrived unannounced on their doorstep one Sunday afternoon. Sarah answered the door, steeling herself for confrontation. "I was hoping to talk to you," Caroline said. Her usual sharpness softened somewhat. "Just you." Sarah hesitated, then stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind her. "What can I do for you?" "I owe you an apology," Caroline said, the words clearly difficult for her. "I haven't been fair to you or Emma. I was so focused on preserving Emily's memory that I didn't consider what was best for Ben or Jack." "You love them," Sarah said. "I understand wanting to protect them." "Love isn't possession," Caroline replied. "Emily knew that better than anyone. She'd be the first to tell me to let go." She took a deep breath. "Anyway, I wanted you to know I'm working on it. And I'd like to get to know you. The real you, not the version I created in my head." It was an olive branch, awkwardly extended but genuine. "I'd like that," Sarah said. "Maybe we could have lunch sometime?" Caroline nodded, a small smile breaking through her composure. "I'd like that too." That night, after the kids were asleep, Sarah and Jack sat on the back deck, watching stars appear in the darkening sky. "Did I tell you Emma got a letter from her dad today?" Sarah said. "He's moving back east. Says he wants to be more involved in her life." Jack turned to her. "How do you feel about that?" "Cautious. He's made promises before." Sarah leaned against his shoulder. "But I think it would be good for Emma to have that relationship, if he's really committed this time." "And how does she feel?" "Excited but nervous. She doesn't really remember what it was like when he was around consistently." Sarah smiled. "She told him about you and Ben. Said she has a bigger family now." Jack wrapped his arm around her shoulders. "She's right about that." They sat in comfortable silence, the spring air cool but not cold. So much had changed in a year. The woman who had arrived in Lakeside feeling defeated was gone, replaced by someone stronger, more confident, more open to possibilities. The future wasn't certain. Life never offered that luxury, but Sarah no longer feared uncertainty the way she once had. "I've been thinking," Jack said, interrupting her thoughts. "That sounds dangerous," she teased. He laughed. "Maybe. What would you think about making this arrangement more permanent?" Sarah turned to face him. "We already live together. How much more permanent can it get?" Jack reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I was thinking something along these lines." Sarah's breath caught as he opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant ring. "Jack, I'm not very good at romantic speeches," he said. "But I know I love you. I love the family we're building. I love who I am when I'm with you. And I'd like to spend the rest of my life figuring out what else we can create together." Tears blurred Sarah's vision. "Are you sure? It's a big step." "I've never been more sure of anything," Jack said. "But if you need time—" "No," Sarah interrupted. "No more time." "Yes. My answer is yes." The kiss they shared was sweet with promise. Tomorrow they would tell the kids, make plans, navigate the next phase of their journey together. There would be challenges ahead. Blending families always came with complications. Emma's father would return to their lives in some capacity. Ben would continue to carry his mother's memory. Caroline would take time to fully accept the new family structure. But sitting there in the gathering darkness, with Jack's arm around her and the weight of his ring on her finger, Sarah knew they could handle whatever came next. This life they were building wasn't perfect, but it was real. And after years of simply surviving, Sarah had finally learned the most important lesson. Real love, in all its messy, complicated glory, was always worth the risk.